Hey there, and welcome to the Tristan channel. And today I wanted to do a video on a possible past life or distant ancestor, or maybe even a glitch in the Matrix. Now, to explain a point first, they say you have a twin somewhere in this world. However, despite this being the case, your face has imperfections that make it unique. Years ago, around 2005 to 2010, a friend of mine, an artist, went to Brussels to see an old ex who worked in the EU Parliament. When she was at work, he would go to the museums and galleries. He then came to a room full of Roman busts, and as he looked at their blank, bold features, he was stopped by a familiar face. He began to laugh. Those nearby were thinking why a random guy was laughing at a Roman bust. He was laughing because it looked like me. You'd think someone was pranking him or something like that, but no, the bust belonged to an actual Roman by the name of Publius, Licinius, Egnatius, Gallienus. But he wasn't just any old Roman. He was the emperor of Rome during the 3rd century AD. The exact birth date of Gallienus is unknown. The 6th century Greek chronicler John Malalas and the Epitome de Caesaribus, butcher that, report that he was about 50 years old at the time of his death, meaning he was born around 218 AD. He was the son of Emperor Valerian and Mariana, who may have been of senatorial rank, possibly the daughter of Ignatius Victor Marianus, and his brother was Valerianus Minor. Inscriptions on coins connect him with Falerii in Etruria, which may have been his birthplace. It yielded many inscriptions relating to his mother's family, the Egnatius. Gallienus married Cornelia Salonia about 10 years before his ascension to the throne. She was mother of 3 princes, Valerian II, who died in 258, Salonius, who was named co-emperor but was murdered in 260 by the army of General Postumus, and Marianus, who was killed in 268, shortly after his father was assassinated. It is also rumoured that he was father to Publius, a daughter that he had with another woman. When Valerian was proclaimed emperor in September 253 AD, he asked the Senate to ratify the elevation of Gallienus to Caesar and Augustus. He was also designated consul ordinaris for 254, as Marcus Aurelius and his adopted brother Lucius Versus had done a century earlier. Gallienus and his father divided the empire. Valerian left for the east to stem the Persian threat, and Gallienus remained in Italy to repel the Germanic tribes and the Rhine and Danube. Division of the empire had become necessary due to its sheer size and the numerous threats it faced, and it facilitated negotiations with enemies who demanded to communicate directly with the emperor. Gallienus spent most of his time in the provinces of the Rhine area, though he almost certainly visited the Danube area and the Licinius in the years from 253 to 258. According to Propertius and Aurelius Victor, he was particularly energetic and successful in preventing invaders from attacking the German provinces and Gaul, despite the weakness caused by Valerian's march on Italy against Aemilianus in 253. Butchering some of these names, try my best. It's been a long time since I spoke. We sorted. According to numismatic evidence, he seems to have won many victories there, and a victory in Rome, Dacia might also be dated to that period. Even the hostile Latin tradition attributes success to him at the time. In 255 to 257, Gallienus was made consul again, suggesting that he briefly visited Rome on those occasions, although no record survives. During his Danube sojourn, Drinkwater suggests in 255 or 256 he proclaimed his elder son Valerian II Caesar, and thus official heir to himself and Valerian I. The boy probably joined Gallienus on campaign at the time, and when Gallienus moved west to the Rhine provinces in 257, he remained on the Danube as the personification of imperial authority. Sometime between 258 and 260, the exact date is unclear, while Valerian was distracted with the ongoing invasion of Shapur I in the east, and Gallienus was preoccupied with his problems in the west. Egnatius, governor of at least one of the Pannonian provinces, took advantage and declared himself emperor. Valerian II had apparently died on the Danube, most likely in 258. Egnatius may have been responsible for Valerian II's death. Alternatively, the defeat and capture of Valerian at the Battle of Edessa may have been the trigger for the subsequent indigenous Gallienus and revolts of indigenous and Postumus. In any case, Gallienus reacted with great speed. He left his son Silonius as Caesar at Cologne under the supervision of Albanus or Silvanus and the military leadership of Postumus. He then hastily crossed the Balkans, taking with him the new cavalry corps Comitatus under the command of Aurelius, and defeated Egnatius at Mercer and Sirmium. Egnatius was killed by his own guards or committed suicide by drowning himself after the fall of his capital. Sirmium. A major invasion by the Alemanni and other Germanic tribes occurred between 258 and 260. It is hard to fix the precise date of these events, probably due to the vacuum left by the withdrawal of troops supporting Gallienus in the campaign against Egnatius. Franks broke through the lower Rhine, invading Gaul, some reaching as far as South Spain, sacking Tarraco, modern Tarragona. The Alemanni invaded probably through the Agri-Decumates, fuck knows how to pronounce that, likely followed by the Juntai after devastating Germania Superior and Raetia parts of South France and Switzerland. They entered Italy, the first invasion of the Italian peninsula, aside from its most remote northern regions since Hannibal 500 years before. When invaders reached the outskirts of Rome, they were repelled by an improvised army assembled by the Senate, consisting of local troops, probably Praetorian guards, and the strongest of the civilian population. On their retreat through northern Italy, they were intercepted and defeated in the Battle of Milan by Gallienus' army, which had advanced from Gaul or from the Balkans after dealing with the Franks. The Battle of Milan was decisive, and the Alemanni did not bother the empire for the next 10 years. The Juntai managed to cross the Alps with their valuables and captives from Italy. An historian, An historian in the 19th century suggested that the initiative of the Senate gave rise to jealousy and suspicion by Gallienus, thus contributing to his exclusion of the senators from military commands. Around the same time, Regulanus, who held some command in the Balkans, was proclaimed emperor. The reasons for this are unclear, and the Historia Augusta, almost the sole resource for these events, does not provide a credible story. It is possible the seizure can be attributed to the discontent of the civilian and military provincials who felt the defence of the province was being neglected. Regulanus held power for some 6 months and issued coins bearing his name after some success against the Sarmatians. His revolt ended when the Roxolani invaded Pannonia and killed Regulanus in taking the city of Sirmium. There is a suggestion that Gallienus invited the Roxolani to attack Regulanus, but other historians dismiss the accusation. It is also suggested that the invasion was finally checked by Gallienus near Verona, and that he directed the restoration of the province, probably in person. In the east, Valerian was confronted with serious troubles. Bands of Scythii began a naval raid of Pontus in the northern part of Asia Minor. After ravaging the province, they moved south in Cappadocia. A Roman army from Antioch under Valerian tried to intercept them but failed. According to Zosimus, this army was infected by a plague that gravely weakened it. In fact, this army had to repel a new invasion of the province of Mesopotamia by Shapur I, ruler of the Sassanid Empire. The invasion occurred probably in the early spring of 260 AD. The Roman army was defeated, and the Battle of Edessa and Valerian and Valerian was taken prisoner. Shapur's army raided Sicilia and Cappadocia in present-day Turkey, sacking, as Shapur's inscriptions claimed, 36 cities. It took a rally by an officer named Castilius Ballister, a fiscal official named Publius Macrianus, the remnants of the Roman Empire, army in the east, and Odephienus and his Primean horsemen to turn the tide against Shapur. God, script's going fast, well. The Sassanids were driven back, but Macrianus proclaimed his two sons Quintus and Macrianus as emperors. Coins struck for them in major cities of the east indicated acknowledgement of the usurpation. The two Macrini left Quintus and Ballister and presumably Odenathus to deal with the Persians while they invaded Europe with an army of 30,000 men. According to the Historia Augusta, at first they met no opposition. The Pannonian legions joined the invaders, being resentful of the absence of Gallienus. He sent his successful commander, Aureliolus, against the rebels. However, the decisive battle was fought in the spring or early summer of 261 AD, most likely Illyricum, although Zeronius locates it in Pannonia. In any case, the army of usurpers was defeated and surrendered, and their two leaders were killed. In the aftermath of the battle, the rebellion of Postumus had already started, so Gallienus had no time to deal with the rest of the usurpers, namely Ballister and Quintus. He came to an agreement with Odenathus, who had just returned from his victorious Persian expedition, Odenathus received the title of Dux Romanorum and besieged usurpers who were based at Amicia. Eventually, the people of Amicia killed Quintus and Odenathus, arrested and executed Ballista about November 261 AD. After the defeat of Adasia, Gallienus lost control over the provinces of Britain, Spain, parts of Germania, and a large part of Gaul, when another general, Postumus, declared his own realm, usually known today as the Gallic Empire. The revolt partially coincided with that of Macrianus in the east. Gallienus had installed his son Salonius and his guardian Sylvanus in Cologne in 258 AD. Postumus, the general in command of the troops on the banks of the Rhine, defeated some raiders and took possession of their spoils. Instead of returning it to the original owners, he preferred to distribute it amongst his soldiers. When the news of this reached Sylvanus, he demanded the spoils be sent to him. Postumus made a show of submission, but his soldiers mutinied and proclaimed him emperor under his command. They besieged Cologne, and after some weeks, the defenders of the city opened the gates and handed Salonius and Sylvanus to Postumus, who had killed them. The date of these events was long uncertain, but an inscription discovered in 1992 at Augsburg indicates that Postumus had been proclaimed emperor by September 260 AD. Postumus claimed the consulship for himself and one of his associates, Horonitarianus, but according to D.S. Potter, he never tried to unseat Gallienus or invade Italy. Upon receiving news of the murder of his son, Gallienus began gathering forces to face Postumus. The invasion of the Macriani forced him to dispatch Aurelius with a large force to oppose them, however, leaving him with insufficient troops to battle Postumus. After some initial defeats, the army of Aurelius, having defeated the Macriani, rejoined him, and Postumus was expelled. Aurelius was entrusted with the pursuit and deliberately allowed Postumus to escape and gather new forces. Gallienus returned in 263 or 265 AD and surrounded Postumus in an unnamed Gallic city. During the siege, Gallienus was severely wounded by an arrow and had to flee. The standstill persisted until his later death, and the Gallic Empire remained independent until 274. In 262, the mint in Alexandria started to again issue coins for Gallienus, demonstrating that Egypt had returned to his control after suppressing the revolt of the Macriani. In spring of 262 AD, the city was wrenched by civil unrest as a result of a new revolt. The rebel this time was the prefect of Egypt, Lucius Musius Aemilianus, who had already been given support to the revolt of the Macriani. The correspondence of Bishop Dionysius of Alexandria provides a commentary on the background of the invasion, civil war, plague, and famine that characterized this age. Knowing he could not afford to lose control of the vital Egyptian granaries, Gallienus sent his general Theodotus against Aemilianus, probably by a naval expedition. The decisive battle probably took place near Thebes, and the result was clear defeat of Gallienus. In the aftermath, Gallienus became consul 3 more times in 262, 264 and 266. In the years 267 to 269 AD, Goths and other barbarians invaded the empire in great numbers. Sources are extremely confused on the dating of these invasions, the participants and their target. Modern historians are not even able to discern with certainty whether there were 2 or more of these invasions, or a single prolonged one. It seems that at first a major naval expedition was led by the Heruli, starting from the north of the Black Sea and leading to the ravaging of many cities of Greece, and among them Athens and Sparta. Then another, even more numerous army of invaders started a second naval invasion of the empire. The Romans defeated the barbarians on sea first. Gallienus' army then won a battle in Thrace, and the emperor pursued the invaders. According to some historians, he was the leader of the army who won the great battle of Narcissus, while the majority believes that the victory must be attributed to his successor, Claudius II. In 268 AD, at some time before or soon after the Battle of Narcissus, the authority of Gallienus was challenged by Aurelius, commander of the cavalry stationed in Milan. He was supposed to keep an eye on Postumus. Instead, he acted as deputy to Postumus until the very last days of his revolt, when he seems to have claimed the throne for himself. The decisive battle took place at what is now Ponterillo Nuovo near Milan. Aurelius was clearly defeated and driven back to Milan. Gallienus laid siege to the city but was murdered during the siege. There are differing accounts of the murder, but the sources agree that most of Gallienus' officials wanted him dead. According to the Historia Augusta, an unreliable source compiled long after the events, it describes a conspiracy was led by the commander of the guard, Aurelius Heraclius, and Lucius Aurelius Macrianus. Macrianus' role in this conspiracy is not confirmed by any other ancient source. Seropus, commander of the Dalmatians, spread the word that the forces of Aurelius were leaving the city, and Gallienus left his tent without his bodyguard, only to be struck down by Seropus. One version has Claudius selected as emperor by the conspirators, another source saying that he was chosen by Gallienus on his deathbed. The Historia Augusta was concerned to substantiate the descent of the Constantinian dynasty from Claudius, and this may explain its accounts which do not involve Claudius in the murder. The other sources report that the conspiracy was organised by Heraclius, Claudius and Aurelian. According to Aurelius Victor and Zeronius, on hearing the news that Gallienus was dead, the Senate in Rome ordered the execution of his family, including his brother Valerianus and son Marianus, and their supporters, just before receiving a message from Claudius to spare their lives and deify his predecessor. The tomb of Gallienus is thought to be located in the south of Rome at the mile of the Via Appia. It was largely thanks to untiring efforts of Gallienus that the Roman Empire survived for another 1,200 years due to his reforms, etc. It is said that Gallienus was a notorious libertarian, womanizer, and cross-dresser. But he also was a fearless warrior, duelist, and general, all at the same time. Was I him in a previous life? Or was he a distant ancestor? I'll guess we'll never know. Hope you enjoyed the video and found it informative and fascinating. Thanks again for watching. Take care and be well.